So exciting. Oh, I actually have a better microphone. And we can sort of hang up. It's all over by the front door. And stir stick. You just hate how much stuff they give you. And then when you say you don't need it, they're always incredulous every time. I'm like, yeah, because I ordered from you last time. It's like, I have an 8-year supply. Okay, so I'm not exactly, this is where.
I think I might not be here when.
Okay, we can place this thing now too. We have it works right out of the box on there, and it doesn't work on my computer. Okay. I don't know why I was concerned. This is better.
Is that semaphore?
No, it's iSchools.
Oh, from the.
They're like battery.
Or connect and we can start some using now.
Okay, so then we need.
How things a semaphore these days? Do you have a sense?
It's been different just because Hey, can you hear us? Oh,
Whoa.
I think we don't have sound. One sec.
We're totally mute. The link is all on Archivers Slack.
Just keep moving your mouth.
What's up, guys?
Sound start.
PatCon in a boardroom. Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I want to try and change it to the massive monitor.
Oh. I don't know. I'm just gonna
You will
stare
be the
at
booming voice of
PatCon
higher
guys
being.
here while Bryce chews breakfast. Oh wait, this is being recorded. Never mind. I'm very civil. This is a very civilized conversation.
We can cut the first part, but I joined on this random computer, so I actually can't control the recording. No one's right now.
Who's doing this?
No bats, no masters.
So you have to
Yeah, I'm glad.
Did it auto join you?
I think it did. We were guessed.
Yeah, the password is quite low, low security.
Does that work? Yay.
Who's joining? Oh, Zoom.
Okay, so I think we got a couple more minutes of prep stuff, and we're just sorting out, because we're using a dedicated laptop.
Oh.
For I just wanted to sort out how we can get the other live stream thing going, but we have like kind of a creepy setup where we got a computer facing us and this sick webcam. So maybe give us a couple moments, and we'll get going.
Awesome. Yeah, no rush. We're a little slow to the party today. I'm feeling so much sheepish for not getting on those pull requests.
Well, I mean, I think I was a little surprised that you did so much work in advance of the
Yeah, that was
sprint, because
supposed to
I
be
thought
part
that
of the
was part of the sprint. So that's fine. I mean,
I'm eager, guys. I'm very eager.
Cool.
Hello.
Use some automation for that, Brendan?
No,
Nope.
Wait, tell me.
Matt was an hour late getting to my house, so I had time to do it.
Issues thing. That was
Yeah,
one
so
of my-
that GitHub issues was kind of fun. Did you see how first I pulled down all the data to get the repos, and then I wrote a one-line bash script to basically submit the same issue over and over again to all the different repos.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because so this GHI command line tool lets you submit issues, and wasn't quite one line because I had to still manually paste in the issue description in Emacs, but
Oh.
I
But you
don't
have
know.
to
No.
or something, and we're just like,
I just had it in the kill ring, so I just like Control Y and it's pretty fast. But
I think
next
my
time,
eyes
faster.
glaze over anytime anyone says anything about an Emacs
Says
command.
the
I'm like,
Yeah. Well, it was like in my head while you were talking, Bryce. It's like this is all because you're one of those Linux guys, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Most of that though is just bash.
Right. Just bash, just whatever.
On this age.
yeah, you're not on Bash. I forgot. I always forget that too.
Michelle.
Okay. I guess I have to sign in. Oh,
Yeah, I think that's
Do this.
mine.
well, let's make a query email. Oh yeah, let's use that.
So Matt Z, maybe you're going to be in Toronto. Maybe
Yeah, I had been alias.
What was that?
you're maybe going to be in Toronto.
Probably not. It's more that through things that I had no control over, I randomly have a free ticket to Lisbon via Toronto.
For how long?
Overnight. So I could use the first leg of that journey and be in Toronto for free. But I've been away from home for over a month now. And
Yeah.
so if I came to Toronto on the 9th, I would have gotten only a week of being home before leaving.
Yeah. Right.
I really would love to come visit you guys, but I'm not
Yeah, sure.
confident it's going to happen.
Oh, I have to.
Where have you been, Matt?
Pardon?
I was just saying, where has Matt been?
Oh.
We had meetings for 2 weeks in Crete, and then I had a week off, so I just hung out in Greece, and then we worked in Lisbon, And I went to London, and then I was back in Lisbon.
My password is like,
Yeah, the same.
okay,
Same.
thank you. That's a lot of travel.
Yeah, it was one of those that at the end of those meetings, I was like, I really just want a staycation, but I was already in Greece. So,
Yeah, like you gotta.
like, do I stay in Greece or do I fly home for like 20 hours in order to stay in Philly? It made more sense to stay in Greece. So we're gonna change rooms in like a minute. There's people using the meeting room we reserved.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we can, so we just aim to have a bit of a conversation all together, and we budgeted an hour. It might be under, but I know Brendan wants to walk through the testing stuff together, which I think is a really important conversation to have and record for posterity. But we can start a bit late, that's fine, right? I mean, it's all just us working together. And I think some people remotely will be joining in, and we have a few late starts, I think in Toronto, but they're mostly interested in documentation. So it'll be good that we have this call stuff as a record, but I mean, we set our own schedule so we can adjust it.
Touche.
Says the person who's like obsessed with keeping to time. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Dawn's okay with it, then we can do it. But
I recognize I embody a contradiction there.
They are leaving the room now. I see the people filtering out.
It's fine. We'll be okay. It's the actual WeWork staff meeting. It happens before 9 a.m. in the big boardroom. So we have to let them have their moment.
You should be like, as a WeWork client, I demand.
And I think you get to yell, and stay out. I think that's your right in this situation.
Yeah, they can totally hear you, Patcon, so that with that one.
Oh no.
They can hear me too. Great people from Toronto do.
Yeah. Then we're never opening a WeWork.
They're
Okay, see you in a moment once you set up.
Yeah.
This is good. This gives us time to figure out this.
Yay, WeWork.
Yeah. Okay, we're moving over.
I hope we didn't create social tension.
It's gonna be all
Oh, they can still hear us.
Okay, we're doing this in Safari. I haven't installed Google.
I think we just need to open the image.
Okay, so just download it.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah. Google Voice. I don't know if it'll allow us to mount it. The one at the bottom.
Yeah.
This is so weird.
Let's
go. Let's try it.
So do I click on this?
Yeah. Yeah, it just moves a plugin into the folder, the library folder. I'm just surprised it's working. And they must have. There it is. I can't do that. So we could.
What if is it maybe installed by default on Google Chrome? Is Google Chrome in here?
I don't think so. It's not on the default ones.
I have a Mac.
We're just troubleshooting a couple more things on the other end, so give us a second.
Roger, Dodger. Okay, so don't.
Okay, see phone call on the left.
Okay,
And then
We're gonna-
if you sync it to there, I can read.
oh, okay, yeah, good point. How do I do that? Oh, here, just do this for now. We're dialing in. Evan, what's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you. I'm so glad you're joining.
Yeah, I have to actually work today, but I'll hang out until 9:30 and I'll see you guys this afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks for dropping in even for a bit.
How you been?
Fantastic.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. But you don't need to unmute. Wait, yeah, can you hear us? Can you guys hear it?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got you. And the feedback is gone. We were hearing a little bit before.
Okay, so now I can. All right, no, we just need to be back, we need to unmute it. Well, did you close it? I did close it because it was verified. Maybe share it.
So we're just trying to figure out, Matt, can you try logging in again? We're just trying to figure out the best way to handle kind of like having a live stream. And I got a separate computer for us, but I can't have admin access. And we can use Zoom weirdly, but we can't use a Google Chrome, or we can't use Google Hangout plugin. We can't install it. So maybe the backup is that we switch to Brendan using the Query Zoom account and just have that.
Okay, yeah.
And we can update the links. And then Pat Kahn also just suggested that we, could also just on our own computers have people felt like during the sprint, the Mozilla Global Sprint we did, that was also quite delightful. So I think that's probably our option, and I don't want us to spend more than, and if this go round doesn't work for us in Toronto, we'll just make the switch and I can update all the documentation.
It would be
it's 2
awesome.
places, it's not a lot.
Could we leave the Hangout link still there just so?
Oh, wait, we think it worked. Maybe.
Actually, audio on that is kind of trash. Yeah, let's switch back. So we don't want to change them.
Oh, perfect. Never mind. We're good. It
Got it.
works.
Yeah.
Chrome ships. This is a good point. Thank you. Chrome ships with Hangout support out of the box.
Okay, so it's a lot of people on phone.
Okay.
Is the video on?
So we just have that going on in the background, and we can sort of move over to that after the call. So I think we should probably start though, in the interest of time. And oops.
Oh.
If people aren't already, I've pinned to the GitHub Slack, the Archiver Slack in the Data Together channel, a bit of like an agenda for kickoff today. So is everyone able to access that? And is everyone in the Archivers Slack? Yeah, I think so.
Nice.
And again, so the plan is that we would just we sort of booked off about an hour. And so we're gonna have just like some logistics first, and then go into talking through the goals, starting to identify who's gonna be the leads on them, and then talking pretty substantially about testing, because that's sort of a huge part of what we want to accomplish over the next 2 days. And then we're gonna have a live stream sort of passively in the background until our next check-ins. In Toronto and hopefully New York, and then when Boston joins as well, Boston. And then if people are remote, they can also jump on to see a bunch of us working, which will be great. But we'll probably have that muted or sort of low volume to aim to try and get people's attention via the Slack. Anyway, so welcome everyone, yay!
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming, this is amazing. And yeah, so I mean, most of you are familiar to the project, so I won't belabor that intro right now, but I will just say, we have a code of conduct and we have recently merged in contributing guidelines. And this is gonna be a sprint where we try to enact those, but also we can revise if they're not working as part of the sprint. And I thought maybe it'd be cool if we did a round of people just saying their names and where they are, because I think that's always fun to have on a call.
Okay.
So I think we'll start by virtue of me talking first. So this is Toronto. I think our name should say Toronto, which is awesome that we have that instead of something random. And I'm Dawn.
And I'm Patrick. Samesies.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And then maybe could one of the New York people, I don't know how you're going to manage that, but maybe in some sort of self-designated order, could you join? Hey, welcome.
Hey, welcome. Sorry, mate.
Hey.
No worries.
I get lost.
All right, now you can see us.
Yeah.
So I'm Matt. I'm in New York.
I'm Rico. I'm in New York as well.
I'm Tom.
Also here.
And that is Brendan.
He's getting Liz Berry, though.
All right, so Brendan and Liz will be here in a moment.
Awesome. And we actually had another joiner for Toronto. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Paul and I'm in Toronto today.
Awesome. And then I think we have Eben as well. I stole your thunder. We have one more remote joiner. Do you want to introduce yourself and say where you're from? Oh, I think you might be muted.
Yay, unmute. I'm Eben. I'm in rainy Boston today. So.
Yeah, and so we have Boston as like a group of people working together who will be joining us later in the afternoon.
Yeah, Jeff and Ray, I think, at least. So.
Awesome. So yeah, for each location, this is just like a logistics thing. You should have some sort of morning snack, and then we have lunch coming, and then dinner. And so the point of contacts for that is like Rico in New York, Jeff in Boston, and me here in Toronto. And stickers are potentially in New York, probably coming here tomorrow. It was a little bit of a tight turnaround. And we didn't get the deadline of getting them to Boston, but I put in the budget enough to send some mail. So we'll figure out how, you have to like figure out how to allocate them after they arrive, but we can get them to Boston. Cool. So the next thing, and this is kind of the bulk of what I think we'll throw up after the call to have online for people who are late joiners, is to just really quickly talk about the sprint goals that we have, as well as the kind of tools that we're going to use to track it, and then who are the main point of contacts. So I feel like I'm going to be talking a lot, and I would love it if someone else wants to join in, but does someone want to, you were on that call, Pakhan, do you want to tackle reading or saying what the goals are?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, the goals for today are to work on documentation, improve documentation, identify test coverage and write some tests, and then and also update the website as it hasn't been touched in a little bit, although it's still much is on there. And also identify first-timer issues, and lastly, establish technical documentation for the guidelines. And the last two are stretch goals.
Yeah, and so our thought was that really on today we would focus on the first three. So like really documentation, test coverage, and website, and then kind of aim to move into the last two for tomorrow, and or depending on how successful we are today, this afternoon. And so those are kind of like high level goals, but there was an initial planning call where we identified a bunch of different tasks. And those are all being sort of tracked on the project tracking board and using this GitHub milestone, which is in that kickoff, like that call pad. And we can keep using this pad throughout the day to like add notes or whatever as needed. So if you click on those, you'll see like a little more of a detailed set of like sort of sub-tasks in each one of those 5 goals. And those are all in the roadmap repo, but then we did have both Brendan and Matt sort of set up in each of the individual repos, like a tracking task for some of the ones that require all of the repos to have an update. And that's really for cleaning up the documentation. So there should be issues kind of preponderance, a huge amount of issues everywhere. Please use them. And in terms of who the different leaders are, I mean, we're not exactly saying leaders, but maybe the person who's best able to answer direct questions, or if you want to ping someone for a review. Where we have Brendan tackling testing, also website stuff, and then thinking about some of the technical documentation guidelines. Jack Boston joining later about kind of, this wasn't identified as a goal, but in terms of part of the first timer and then actually starting to get up using the software, custom crawling is one specific area was identified. So I think that's really, Boston, like your domain. So really excited to have that kind of maybe be more of the afternoon focus if we get there. I mean, something will happen. And then me and Matt in Toronto are kind of splitting, being like a point of contact on documentation. And then also threw down the website, and I just sort of nominated Matt for first time use issues. I don't know why, that was a little not fair. Should have checked.
That's fine.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a setup. We're all using, we're all going to use Slack, and then as I mentioned, but I'll repeat for people who maybe look at this later. We have a couple check-in calls. They're in the schedule. So there's like this first morning one. We're going to have like a wrap-up one at the end of the days. And then we're going to do a very quick, almost like stand-up, like just make sure that everyone unmutes on the live stream and sort of see how people are doing a couple points throughout the day. And of course, if we need to all come together to have a talk, that's totally fine, right? It's like we wanted to give enough of a structure so we don't just like completely go off and then like not talk to each other. But if we need to be having conversations sooner, we should. And so now the kind of last chunks are one, we kind of wanted to do a bit of a demo, and Brendan, I think you were going to lead this, of thinking about the process of using GitHub. So just that we have these contributing guidelines, and we tend to like to work with GitHub's pull requests and issues, and then kind of have some sort of review before it's merged in, and we kind of are taking advantage of GitHub's features here. So Brendan was maybe going to screen share and just walk through that quickly. And now I can stop talking. Yes.
Amazing. Is this gonna be?
Just talk.
Yeah, we're getting some feedback.
Yeah, so I should just say muted.
Yeah, that's great. We can hear you.
Awesome. What time to be alive? What am I, Don, what am I doing again? I'm demoing GitHub use.
I thought it was testing.
We have that below.
Oh.
So we wanted to demo using a GitHub for review process, like that workflow. And then we were going to talk about the documentation stuff. So maybe Matt, we can talk about the templates.
Okay.
And then the remainder would just be talking about the testing overview. And that we sort of budgeted to be the most significant amount of time.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen then. I'm totally happy to demo the GitHub peer review system. And anyone feel free to put your hand up if there's questions or anything.
I can be your foil if you need someone like to jump in
Be my foil.
to respond to things you're doing.
But what if? But what if? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to share my screen now.
Great.
Okay, desktop one. I don't know. I'm nervous, guys. My desktop's a little messy. Okay, look at this.
It's well hidden. You're
Yeah, just the edges of.
I'm going to try everything I can not to like let this one out. So I'm going to start with on the data together area, and so I'm starting here with the intent to sort of I want to make a contribution today. And so the first thing I happen to know that there's a roadmap. There's an issue with the current roadmap thing, so I'm going to start with that as an example. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this thing, and some of this we'll demo with the command line, but you don't need to be totally command line familiar to do a lot of this. I'll do a part that involves typing with Git, and then we'll do a part that involves just using GitHub's for us to actually comment on. So I'm going to go to this roadmap repository, and I'm going to first sort of have a look and get a general feel for how everything's working. And once I know that this is the repository I want to clone, I'm going to just go to this clone or download or button. I'm going to hit this button, which is going to copy this URL to my into my clipboard. And then I'm going to switch over to a terminal, which looks like this. And then I'm going to make sure I'm in the right place. And I'm going to go cd. I have a development folder. So I'm going to cd dev, and then I'm going to do git clone. And then I'm going to paste the name of that thing. That's going to give me, it's going to grab the roadmap, bring it down, and then if I do ls to list my files, I can see that roadmap is now, I can do ls grab roadmap. I can spell roadmap. There it is. And so what I'm going to do is cd into roadmap, change directory. So now, and my terminal is such that I get this nice little like git master, which means I'm currently on the master branch. If you want more info on that, hit me up after this talk, and I can explain how to set up your terminal. It would be awesome. But the first thing I'm going to do is I don't want to actually make edits on the master branch because the master branch is sort of our canonical source of code. So the first thing I want to do before I do anything is git checkout -b and the name of the branch that I want to change. And so in my case, this is going to be readme updates. So I'm going to update the read. And so then I hit enter, and if it works, you're going to see this get switch to a new branch readme updates, which is great. It means that I'm on a new branch, and so everything is, all the contributions I make now will be isolated. So now if I go to my dev folder and this roadmap, I'm going to take this and drag this entire directory into a text editor, in my case. I have this thing, and then I'm going to say, cool, so the README, and I know there's an issue with the README, so when you go in here, I'm going to say, hey, what's service there? In this case, I'm not actually going to bother contact v5 on the archiver Slack. I'll say that for now as an example. I'm going to hit save on this file. I'm going to do git status. It's going to show that, oh, hey, something's changed. And so now I need to actually commit this change to make it work. So I'm going to do git add a to add that file. And then I'm going to do git commit and add archivers Slack reference to README. And GitHub has been really nice to us. It's set up a remote already called Origin, so I can see git remote. What remote means is this is a place that I can push code to. So I can take the code changes that I've made on this branch and I can send that back to GitHub. So I can do git push origin, which is GitHub in this case, and then README updates. Once that pushes, I can now go back to GitHub, and GitHub has been super smart, and it noticed that I've already made some changes. And so a couple of things to note here. The number of branches is now changed. I can see this README updates. And from here, this is my code. I'm now looking at my code that is potentially changed and pushed back to the repository. And from here, I can see where's my contact v5 on the archiver Slack. So I've actually changed the README at this point. And then from here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a pull request, which is going to be the spot where we can discuss this change so that everybody can have a chance to look at it. So at archiver Slack reference to README, it pulled this out of my commit message. If I wanted, I can add extra details about this commit. This gives people specific place to go for questions or something to like, something that sort of qualifies what is being changed about the code. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flag some people for review and ask them for their review. For today, it's a great idea to flag any of the project leads. So you can flag Titanium Bones, you can flag BC Walk, you can flag eBerry, you can flag Matt flying Zumwalt, you can flag Jeff Liu, any of these people. In this case, I'm going to ask, where's PatCon? PatCon for review. And then I'm going to create my pull request. And now we have it open. And PatCon should not accept this review because it's a poor change. It's just an example, but it's, yeah, and then Waffles come in and add it to in progress. And then we can have a whole discussion. And from here, PatCon will, because he'll get a notification and he'll check this out. And if he refuses and accepts it, then I'll get a little green check mark in this area. And then if that's true, once I get an approval from at least one other person, I can then merge that pull request. So it's my responsibility to merge it, but only once it's been reviewed by somebody else on the team. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool, good. And from there, I think that's the general plan. And then once merge happens, we merge back to, and I can stop screen right now.
Can you, oh, I was gonna say, Brendan, could you also switch back to screening, share your screen, sorry. Do you mind just editing your file using the GitHub web interface? I think it would be, for documentation for many people, I don't think the requirement will necessarily be that they have to.
It's a very good point, yes.
So that's like sort of the major flow, and the remaining part stays the same, but GitHub also supports in-browser editing, which is better for documentation than, say, code.
That's a very good point, Don. I'll cancel this and I'll show you how this works. So what we can do, as Tom was saying, you don't have to actually use the command line for any of this. We can do edits straight in GitHub. So I'll demo how to do that straight from scratch. So in this case, I'm looking at just the master branch of this repository. So this time we're not going to use any command line tricks. Instead, we're just going to modify everything using just GitHub. So in this case, instead of doing the cloner download trick, I'm going to do new pull request. Oh no, I'm not. I have to actually. How do I do that? I have to edit this file. I do things this way, Don. I'm so bad at this.
Click on the README.
Okay.
I can try.
You want to demo it, Liz?
Yeah, I'm not connected to this. I can come on here.
Yeah, just computer. Here. We're tagging in Liz.
Yeah, I haven't done this in a couple weeks, so let's see what I'm part of this. Well, I had to do this before. I just used GitHub itself to edit. Wow, this looks nice. Look at these pictures. Okay. And I clicked. So you're somewhere you can edit right here in the browser when you're at something ending in .md for Markdown. And then there's the pencil button for edit this file. And let's see. Guys, can you help me as to when I make this my own branch, or if this is going to go to master?
That's
It's right at the bottom, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so to connect what we're doing here with what Brendan just showed, after you click the pencil button and you have the ability to edit this file right here in the main body, it's down at the bottom where you get that option to create a new branch. And that's what we're doing here. So let's see. Let's say I changed something in the Markdown, something bad, like I just want to say, hi guys. This is not going to get peer review approved. I'm going to say added extra happiness. For the team. And my new branch is going to be called something ridiculous, and I'm going to click the green button, propose file change. And guys, what do I have to do here to request peer review?
You on that thing up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask DC Walk, and anything else here? All right, great.
And that's the same flow in both command line mode and not command line mode. What do you think? Look good?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just gonna stop screen sharing. So, yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. I think then the next point that we just wanted to all talk about together was kind of for the documentation goals, sort of what the scaffold we have in place right now is to kind of hit those goals. That was worded oddly. So I don't know, Matt, if you want to speak to that, or do you want me to briefly?
We're talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have an issue. I think 37 or 39. 37?
Yeah, it's not easy for us to. I guess we could try and share the screen, but let's see if I can actually. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Brendan. So if you go to the roadmap and then either the milestone or the issues, one of the main sort of tasks for the sprint is
issue number 37.
Is issue number 37, yeah.
Which is to add README and
It's right at the top.
contributing.md, a license. I think those are the main things to every repo.
Oh my gosh.
So as you can see, we've opened an issue in every repo that that links back to this to this meta issue. In each case, it's a pretty simple task. We're mostly copying boilerplate text into the repository, but then the README itself has content, so it has to describe the repository, and there are mandatory and optional sections in the README. So the task is sort of twofold. One, just mechanically adding the files, and two, taking some time to understand what the repository is so that you can fill in the README appropriately. So I was just gonna, so that's a like one of the first substantial documentation tasks. If we get that done, we'll be in much better shape than we are today in terms of presenting the project to outside contributors. So this is a really awesome thing to get done. I'm going to start a thread in Slack where we can maybe track the repositories so that we don't duplicate each other's efforts.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is, so part of the README will have an initial description, but that might not be necessarily obvious to all of us exactly what to put there. So I think that might be another opportunity to use the Slack to try and workshop like a couple sentence description of key repos. Some of them actually already have READMEs. So, you know, it's not in the case that none of these have READMEs. Actually, most of them do. Yeah. But we're kind of trying to move towards less technical language at the front, at the top, the header of the README, and have that be a little more like a human readable description. And so again, yeah, we can take advantage of Slack to try and say like, hey, does this work? And then before we commit it, or we could sort of have some peer work if people are side by side. That might be a really good opportunity.
Are any of these packages, really a question for Brendan, general enough that we would want to consider contributing them to the package, the Go package repository, or does that exist in Go? Is there like a fancy website that lists all of them?
It does, and if you're interested in doing that, we should have that as like a sidebar this afternoon. Talking about, I'll do a quick session for anyone interested in that. I'll just need to go doc. I have to look at how to do it first.
Well, I would suggest, why don't we put that as a Friday stretch goal thing? So I think for now, when we have these awesome sorts of ideas, why don't we kind of have like a parking lot for them in the hack pad that we're using? So like let's like collect some of those thoughts and then thinking about creating issues for it and stuff as part of tomorrow's work. But that sounds like a great idea.
Perfect. Yeah, and if as you're working, if there's a repository that's written in Go and you're confused about it, feel free to let's have that conversation as much as possible in that thread on Archivers, and then from there I'll try to answer any questions. I'm going to spend as much time today feeding information to people as they need.
Yeah, actually, thank you. That's a really good point. So almost all of the code base is Go. We have, I believe, one JavaScript thing. Maybe it's not there right now. And then we have the Python, so all of the custom crawl stuff, which is really been Boston's sort of like domain, is written in Python and integrates with a service. So there will be a little bit of, for people who are not super familiar with Go, kind of trying to like transact or sort of understand and maybe working out of Slack to kind of get a good description. And so we'll play it by ear, and if we find that's not working, we can all sort that out. Great. I mean, I think time-wise, we're in excellent position, but maybe now it's time to have that testing conversation. I think that means you're sharing screen again, Brendan.
Okay. So, and I would say, yeah, okay, cool. So this is going to be a quick 15-minute crash course in Go tests, just so that everyone can feel a little more familiar with them. We're working on adding code coverage tests to everything. This test is really good, and we want Go has some pretty specific built-in test features to the language that I'm going to quickly walk you through now and try to highlight some of the points that make it a little easier to work with. So yeah, let me start with sharing my screen, and then let's grab the Go repository, which for this example, we're going to work with Get Together Sentry, which needs a README, needs a lot of work today. We're going to crash into this documentation as much as possible. Then I'm also, yeah, so let's It watches stuff. Yeah. This needs a README update. Cool. So to do Go testing, the first thing I'm going to do is CD to go. Actually, before I get started there's a link to stuff. What is that? Oh shoot, Donna, close the notes.
It's like a very difficult to say out loud short link, so
Can you speak up? Sorry.
it's not an easy to say out loud short link.
Okay.
It's on Hackable, right?
Yeah, it is. Someone can paste it in the chat while I'm talking. There's a really useful link on it.
I think Pakhan just
Yeah,
did.
it's in your chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Here it is. So this thing. Oh no, that's the HackMD. Where's the code? Here we go. Yes. This link is really worth a read if you want to get oriented to some of the stuff that I'm going to kind of glaze over here. But this explains sort of like the general form. And most importantly, we'll just start with this big thing. Any test in Go looks like this. It's in a file that ends with _test.go. And it has this, it starts with capital T test, and it takes this pointer to testing.t, which a lot of that sounds really technical. Don't worry, we'll get there. So from there, I'm going to change directory to source.com, get together, Sentry, and I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to run go test. And this is the most basic command, and that will test the current package. And so you can see that it passed, but that's not a ton of information. So if I want to get a little more verbose, I can do go test-v, which will actually show me the name of the test. So this -- run, or triple equals run, this test server route. So it ran the test called test server routes. And so I'm going to show you where that actual file is by closing this and this and making this one and closing all of these. Sentry. So you notice a lot of these files, the nice thing about Go test is you can always tell how well a repository is tested by how many files end in _test. So in this case, this is a not well-tested repository because there's only one file that ends in _test. And so we have server, and then the test of the server live in server _test. And this is that function, test server routes. And it takes that same, so if I were to change this name to lowercase test server routes and try to save and run this again, it would be like, there's no test to run because I couldn't find any. So it needs to start with an uppercase. It needs to look exactly like this. This is how the Go testing suite knows what to look for. And then from here, we can, I'm not going to walk through exactly how to write this test. If you want to get in on Go, should I? Maybe not. Let's, it's worth noting that I'll sort of speak more generally to say that in Go, it's encouraged to think about your testing as like a software in whose application is to check whether stuff works or not. And so this test server routes is testing a very specific function. So generally what we do is we walk through every one of these main functions that has an export. So like new server routes. This thing is, in Go, when a letter is capitalized, that means it's exported. And so for any given file, the test coverage is really good when for all of the functions that have a capital letter, there's a corresponding test for them. That's kind of the goal. If you want to have, like if I look at handlers, there's a health check handler here. I want to make sure that at some point I write a test that runs this way. And so I could actually come in and write, as an example, I can make a new file and do package name and then import testing. And then I would save this as handlers test.go. And then I'll give my Go syntax, and then I write the func test, and then what's the name of my function? I often just copy and paste, test health test handler, and then I do T, testing T. And then from here, so now I have this, if we run this again, it actually exists, right? So test health check handler now exists. Oh, I didn't save this file. So saving this, I can see both tests. So I now at least have 2 tests, and currently handlers.test passes, which is not good because it's testing nothing and not doing anything. So I can do T error F tests not completed, and delete this. Actually, I could just do T error, but in this case, we'll do error. But it's close enough. And then now if I do go test -B again, we get fail exit status 1, and we actually see the response status here. The test not completed. If I want to run a specific test, I can do go test -- run equals, or just dash run. It's a bad habit I'm trying to eliminate. Test server threads.
Brendan?
Yeah.
Is it, I think you kind of alluded to it there, the fail first sort of thing, but is it worth kind of like quick, like 1 or 2 liner recap of that philosophy of?
That's a great point, yes. So fail first, as Pat was absolutely correct, he's alluding to the notion that a test should not pass. And so what we should do is we should write, theoretically, we should write tests first and have them fail. And then, so the acronym for this is red, green, refactor. So write a test that fails, and then check the code to make sure that it passes. Change the code to make it pass, and then you're only then can you refactor the code underneath. And so we've written a failing test. So what we want to do is actually read through this function and check, okay, currently it says it responds with the status okay of this type. And so if it responds with anything else, that's bad. Pat, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's great.
Okay, good. That's a very good point. Yeah, we should really, and so I think it's a great idea to sort of scaffold out these things. Like it's really nice if you just work through these and go test health check handler, test certbot handler, and like sort of work through these and say like, okay, test not completed is a great starting point. You just have them all fail. But it's generally that's not going to be super helpful. But even just having the test stubbed out is great. I think, what do we want to do in the meantime? We could put to do, but actually writing the tests, I can give you if you want to pick me on Slack, we can talk about writing example tests. Some of them do have, Matt.
Can you write the test for that very simple function right here?
Right now, yeah. So this is health test. So I'm actually going to import, in this case, so what I need is an HTTP response writer and HTTP. So I look at the signature of this function, test health check handler, and then I'm going to do, and at some point I know that I'm going to need to invoke health check handler with a reader and a writer. And so this is where we have the wonderful HTTP test package. And then I can do HTTP tests, requests. This is interesting, writing tests on the fly that work handler functions. This has been, actually no, I can do this. This is a little bit janky, but I'm going to import, I can't do that. Here, why don't I, writing a test for this is going to take a second, because I actually have to think, and I can't think and don't.
No pressure.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll show you the server test and how to expand that. So in this case, I'll show you something that you can do to expand this. So test server routes is an example of something called a table test. And a table test is anything that looks like this, and that takes a number of cases. And if you look here, these are all of the different test cases that we're going to run. And we get a chance to actually define a custom set of parameters that we're going to feed to every test example. And then in this for loop, what we actually do is we actually test every single one of these. So this is test case 0, this is test case 1. And so in this case, what this is actually testing are the actual endpoints for the server. So if we look at this, we have server routes for, this is just the root, and then we have the health check handler. And if we look over at server.test, _test, this is a test, a get request to the root, and then this thing fills this in order. So the method is get, the endpoint is this thing, which has to match this thing. And then does it expect a body? So does the response should actually respond with a result, or should it just be an empty response? And then if it does respond to the body, we can actually provide it with the data that should match what it gives back. And then the response status code. So in this case, this would be HTTP status OK, which is also 200. So basically what this test is saying is a GET request to the root should give us 200. A GET request to health check should give us 200. So I can also say a post request to health check should give us a 404. Because if I look at, I happen to know that the answer to that is a 404, so if we look at the health check handler, it's gonna be interesting. We'll see if this works. So adding a new test case in a table test, this is the nice thing about a table test, is it's as simple as adding another one of these. So I just copy this line and paste it, and I can change it to delete, and it'll try all of these examples. And so now let's do a get, post, and delete. Let's add a put in there, why not? And so you can go crazy with it. You can add as many of these example cases as you want. If you ever see things take this form, it should be completely fine to add another example. And so then if I run go test I'm just going to do go test again, and we'll use our run to only actually just do go test. And we can see that the test fails. And then it said case 2, 3, and 4, but the status codes didn't match. And you can actually see there's no magic to where this is happening. All of that is in the actual loop itself. And so we're actually checking in here. And so if you want to see how the test should fail, you can actually read through this code that explains what it should do on each case. And so the response, in this case, the status code mismatch is what's firing. And it's saying the response status code doesn't match the test case status code. And so in here, and I intentionally always take the number of the case, that's what this case %d, and then feeding this I in. That's the actual iteration number. So it's important to know that this is test 0, test 1, test 2. But once that's run, so these tests fail, and we should make them pass by first checking. In this case, apparently it's okay for all of these to respond 200 to the health check. And so we go test. It's still failing because tests are not completed on our other handler from here. I have to save this file. We're going to leave that empty for now and add it to do, I guess. That might be better for me. Ask but yeah, so we did a get, put, post, and delete. It's actually logging out the responses here. And then the test passed, which is great. So we've added some new test cases. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do git add git commit added server endpoints test cases. And in this case, I'm going to git push. I'm on a branch called Spring Prep. Oh, got already projected because I have to get full. Anyways, so then I can push it. I can push my test up. Finally, let's do one last thing. Test coverage. Test coverage is really important, and so it's worth noting that we can do it really quick. Go has a nice set of tools for checking how much of your code base is covered by tests. So if we do go test, but this time instead of just running a raw test, I'm going to add this cover. So we do first do coverage. COVERAGE. And what that'll do is, oh my gosh, it helps to memorize before you do demos. Go test cover. So with dash cover, you'll see it now has this additional coverage 4% of statements. 4% is a little low, but it's more than 0. So go test. Now this is I think this is the most interesting part. You can do go test dash cover profile, which is actually going to give you an output file of your coverage. And so in this case, I'm going to name it coverage.txt, which is going to do the same thing. It's going to run an output. But you notice in my project, it actually spit a new coverage.txt. And in our git ignores, I've actually added ignore coverage.txt. We don't actually want to check this in version. But finally, what I can run is go tool. And the go tools package is really exciting if you run go tool help. There's all kinds of tools we're working on Go stuff. You can actually run Go doc and Go all these fun stuff. But the one I'm interested here is in Go tool cover. And I'm going to go dash cover profile, HTML equals, and then the name of the file that I just wrote, so coverage.txt. What it's going to do is actually open up a web browser that shows me the coverage of every single file. Things that are not covered are going to be highlighted red. Things that are covered, it's going to be highlighted green. And so looking through here, this isn't covered, this isn't covered, This is embarrassing. But if we go to server, we can actually see that the green stuff is actually being run by our tests. Now what this means is during the test, those lines of code were called. It doesn't necessarily mean that the code is being tested really well. It's still up to you, the developer, to sort of check to make sure that the tests are really accurately working. But this at least gives us a sense of what code is and is not being hit by the coverage. And so, yeah, just to reiterate through those one more time, go test that cover profile, and then you give the name of the file. And then you do go tool cover -HTML, and then you give it the name of the file.
And I'll just say that all of those are in the sort of the Sprint tag that we have. So we have at a high level that stuff, and then we'll add a link to this video once it's uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah, does that help?
I think that's a great start and like a way to frame how we'll be writing the test. I just thought in the last couple minutes, last couple minutes of this call, I wanted to kind of quickly just talk about what people are going to start on, if that makes sense. So I think Matt identified like the huge priority around documentation, and there's a lot there. So I think we can easily break that apart into tasks that individuals tackle. And then in addition, testing. So do people have a sense on an area they want to work right now? I mean, I feel like maybe we want to work on these two for the next while before introducing sort of the website stuff. So how about a show of hands for documentation? That's kind of, that's a chunk of Toronto. And who is interested in testing? That looks like a chunk of New York. Great.
Who wants to work on the website?
Website? Yeah, website.
There are people whose hands aren't up.
Yeah,
so
whose hands aren't up and what do they want to work on?
it was Matt and Liz that I saw. I'm not sure. Are you here for the sprint, Liz? You gonna be able to work?
Yeah, I'm here.
You want to work on website, or do you want to work?
Is that where most of the values is?
Yeah, getting that merged in might be.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's get a chat going. I think that'll be an easier way to do it.
Okay, cool. Let's do it that way.
Okay, great. So it seems like we're a lot of Toronto stuff will be focusing on documentation. PatCon will be bridging some testing, and we can sort of start to have some of those conversations on Slack, and then we'll switch over to just using the live stream as a way to let you all know we're still alive here in Toronto. And yeah, so let's update each other if anything comes up or thoughts or progress in Slack.
Awesome.
Great.
All right. See you Toronto.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yay!
Actually, before, so if that's the whole synchronous thing, I have a, I guess it's a question, a proposition. I want to spend some time over the next few weeks gathering like clear descriptions of user journeys around data together type use cases. So describing who would be using this software, why are they using it, and what is their journey from, hey, I want to use this, through to, wow, I've successfully used this and I love this and we're continuing to use it. And so is that something we should try to talk about in these 2 days? Or is that something that, like, I'm definitely planning to work on it in the coming weeks. So since we have people sort of tuned in these 2 days, I wanted to make sure people know I'm wanting to work on it.
Yeah, so thank you. I probably did a bad job of setting it up. So what we thought about for the 2 days is that really today, most of the day would be those first 3 sort of goals. And then, you know, we do have the 5, and so kind of shifting a bit of the work to the other 2 on Friday. But also in the afternoon, we kind of aimed to have like a bit of a longer sort of a bit more technical discussion about the future. And I think Brendan has a demo, so maybe booking some time for that off in the afternoon. And then I think that would also be the time to talk about that, Matt, because I think it should be a conversation sort of about next steps and kind of also giving ourselves enough time to maybe spawn issues around some of these things that we need to, but then also like sketch out just like conversationally future projects and even the next few weeks, which it sounds like this fits in perfectly.
Cool.
So let's aim for that kind of Friday afternoon.
Question about that. Are you imagining like one-on-one interviews with people or kind of a group conversation?
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
So, and I'm also in the process of seeking more help. So I might of people who have done thorough and extensive kind of user analysis type work to help with this. But for now, it's like getting the ball rolling. There's a lot that's obvious to us that we can start gathering before we even do anything more formal. But I think I will also be, well, I know I will also be pushing for more formal stuff too over the coming weeks.
Awesome. Liz, you had that.
Yeah, I'd love to just even do 10 minutes with you on a user scenario coming in from the friendly to this initiative public lab community. And I'm not sure what a final use case scenario looks like, but I can give you, the information that should go into it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's do that. So is that something we should try to do synchronously with these video things these 2 days, or is does that sound like a thing that? I mean, Liz and I can grab each other over lunch at a time when we're not using up video time.
I'd love to hear some of that if
Yeah,
if
I
we can
mean,
do it a little bit later in the day.
Friday
Okay.
afternoon.
All right, let's just earmark it and get it in the schedule sometime today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Okay, great. See you all in Slack.
All right, chat soon. I'm gonna leave this meeting with my computer battery so but we'll leave it on the big screen.
oh. So this.
Morning.
Morning, guys.
Good
Hey,
morning.
hey, Tom.
How are you?
Liz.
Should we?
Hey, Rika.
Yeah,
Nothing.
Living the dream.
all right, good. Still recording.
Oh.
Recording where? Enthusiastic.